What's up, everyone, and welcome to an episode of Rich Talks BS. I'm your host, Rich. Week 13 in the NFL has just passed, and it was a pretty long week with 2 games on Monday and a Tuesday night game. There are some upsets and some pretty close games. Very interesting week, as you know, we're getting closer and closer to playoffs, and the playoff pictures are starting to look a little bit more clear, but still got to the end of the season to see what happens. First off, we got the Saints and Falcons. Saints 21, Falcons 16. Taysom Hill passed for 232 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had 14 rushing attempts for 83 yards. He had 3 fumbles, but he lost one of them. Alvin Kamara had 15 rushing attempts for 88 yards and 1 touchdown. They had 207 rushing yards as a team. Michael Thomas brought in 9 catches for 105 yards. Traquan Smith and Jared Cook each had a touchdown. Matt Ryan passed for 273 yards, 1 touchdown. He also had a fumble lost. Ito Smith had 8 rushing attempts for 36 yards. They had 70 rushing yards as a team. Calvin Ridley, 5 catches, 108 yards. Julio Jones, 6 catches, 94 yards. And Russell Gage, 4 catches, 51 yards, and 1 touchdown. Thomas became the fastest player to reach 500 or more career receptions in NFL history. The Saints are 8-0 without Drew Brees since 2019. You know, this Saints team is still looking good. Even without Drew Brees, you know, they got a different game plan, especially for Taysom Hill. The offense is a little bit different. They're running, he's running way more than Drew Brees. They're just, leaving it open, leaving, Brees in a good spot to come back and just continue to take over, continue, his game like he's never been gone. He's looking to come back this coming up Sunday. Hopefully he does. Kind of shape up the NFC a little bit more. But Falcons are still Falcons. They're still trying to figure out who they are, I guess, this year. But we'll see what happens, later on in the season. Next, we got Bengals-Dolphins. Bengals 7, Dolphins 19. Brandon Allen had 183 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Ryan Finley also had 40 yards passing and 1 interception. Bernard had 12 rushing attempts for 30 yards. They had 40 rushing yards as a team. Boyd had 1 catch, 72 yards, and 1 touchdown. T. Higgins, 5 catches, 56 yards. Drew Sample, 7 catches, 49 yards. Tua Tagovailoa had 296 passing yards and 1 touchdown. Myles Gaskin had 21 rushing attempts for 90 yards and a lost fumble. They rushed for 110 yards as a team. Gesicki had 9 catches, 88 yards, and 1 touchdown. Kyle Van Noy had 8 tackles and 3 sacks. They had 6 sacks as a team and 2 interceptions. Xavier Howard had 1 of the interceptions, which made it 8 for this season. It makes it a career high. Boyd with the 1 catch, 72 yards. Him and Howard actually were ejected after a sideline scuffle. There was a pass that was going out of bounds, and they got into it. And then ejected from the game. Dolphins are still looking good. They're well in the playoff hunt. Tua's starting to, still look good. He's starting to catch a rhythm. They're not going to do much in the playoffs. I still don't think they're going to do much in the playoffs if they make it. But it's still a good start for the Dolphins. They know where their future lies. It lies with Tua. And just give him a couple more weapons, and he'll be okay. Next, we got Raiders-Jets. Raiders 31, Jets 28. Derek Carr passed for 381 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He also had a rushing touchdown. Devin Booker, 16 rushing attempts, 50 yards. They rushed for 72 yards as a team. Darren Waller, 13 catches, 200 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Henry Ruggs, 3 catches, 84 yards, a touchdown, and a lost fumble. Sam Darnold passed for 186 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He had 2 lost fumbles. Ty Johnson, 22 rushing attempts, 104 yards, and 1 touchdown. Frank Gore was injured early in the game, and they pulled him out. James Crowder, 5 catches, 47 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Um, you know, Waller was having a great game. He's very underrated. To me, if not the best tight end, one of the best tight ends in the game, one of the best receivers in the game. He just has the hands. He has the talent. Catching passes from Derek Carr is just making it even better. He just had a really good game against this struggling Jets team. So, really, the Jets kind of had the game, and that last defensive play that they called, it was an all-out blitz, which allowed Carter to find the man-to-man and the open man downfield, which was Henry Ruggs, for a 46-yard game-winning touchdown. That still make the Jets 0-12, still most likely with the number 1 pick, which, a lot of people are expecting them to go Trevor Lawrence. Adam Gase is still has a job for now. I'm pretty sure at the end of the season, he's not going to have a job. Greg Williams, the defensive coordinator, was actually fired after this game for even calling that play, which if he wouldn't have called that play, they probably would have won the game. And, kind of the chances for them getting the number 1 pick would have been a little bit more slimmer because Jacksonville also has 1 win. But, that's just how it was. That's just how it happened. Next, we got Jaguars-Vikings. Jaguars 24, Vikings 27. Mike Glennon threw for 280 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and a lost fumble. Robinson with 18 rushing attempts, 78 yards, 1 touchdown. He also had 6 catches for 30 yards. They rushed for 124 yards as a team. Colin Johnson, 4 catches, 66 yards. Eifert, 6 catches, 45 yards. Kirk Cousins passed for 305 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He also had a lost fumble. Dalvin Cook, 32 rushing attempts, 120 yards. He had 6 catches for 59 yards. They rushed for 145 yards as a team. Jefferson had 9 catches, 121 yards, and 1 touchdown. Thielen had 8 catches, 75 yards, and 1 touchdown. Jags have allowed 24 more points in 11 straight games. Justin Jefferson, the rookie, becomes the 5th rookie with 1,000 or more receiving yards in their first 12 games. Justin Jefferson is a really great rookie. He's having a really good rookie season. He's a great receiver. He's quick. He's got hands. To even be catching, passes from Kirk Cousins is pretty amazing. It's pretty, it's kind of impressive. Kirk Cousins is not, the worst quarterback out there. But at the same time, he's not the best either. He's pretty much, that average, above average type quarterback. But then to be having games like this and Justin Jefferson just having the games he's having, that's really good for Cousins and his Vikings offense. Next, we got Colts, Texans. Colts 26, Texans 20. Phillip Rivers threw for 285 yards, 2 touchdowns. Taylor had 18 rushing attempts for 91 yards and 1 receiving touchdown. Hines with 1 touchdown. They rushed for 109 yards as a team. T.Y. Hilton had 8 catches, 110 yards, and 1 touchdown. Pittman with 5 catches, 46 yards. Watson had 341 passing yards, 1 interception, a rushing touchdown, and a lost fumble. 2 lost fumbles, actually. Excuse me. David Johnson, with his first game back, 10 rushing attempts for 44 yards and 1 touchdown. They had 90 rushing yards as a team. Kiki Cutie with 8 catches, 141 yards. Hanson with 5 catches, 101 yards. Brandon Cooks, 5 catches, 65 yards. Hilton has 100 or more receiving yards for the first time in his last 22 games. It was a 21 game drought without having a 100 or more receiving yard game. Watson is the first quarterback with 13,000 pass or more passing yards and 1,500 or more rushing yards in their first 50 career games. Deshaun Watson is still having a great season despite the type of season that they're having. He's still putting up numbers. He's still Watson. He is an elite quarterback that could, take their team to the playoffs, beyond the playoffs, maybe possibly with, a run for the Super Bowl, possibly landing in the Super Bowl one day. Will they win? We won't know. But he has the ability, he has the athleticism, he has the mindset to lead a team like this to better seasons. Next, we have Browns Titans. Browns 41, Titans 35. Baker Mayfield with 334 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and a lost fumble. Nick Chubb, 18 rushing attempts, 80 yards, 1 touchdown. Hunt with 14 attempts, 33 yards. They rushed for 118 yards as a team. Higgins with 6 catches, 95 yards, and 1 touchdown. Donovan Peoples-Jones with 2 catches, 92 yards, and 1 touchdown. Landry had 8 catches, 62 yards, and 1 touchdown. Ryan Tannehill, 389 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Derrick Henry, 15 rushing attempts and 60 yards, and a lost fumble. They rushed for 62 yards as a team. Corey Davis with 11 catches, 182 yards, and 1 touchdown. A.J. Brown with 4 catches, 87 yards, and a lost fumble. The Browns scored on each of their first 6 offensive drives for the first time since returning to the NFL in 1999. Myles Garrett has 10 or more sacks in 3 straight seasons, and the Browns have scored 38 points in the first half, which is most in a game in team history. This Browns team was just on fire. They caught fire early, and they caught this Titans team off guard. Titans were coming from picking themselves back up. They look like the Titans of earlier this year, and they were coming in expecting to win. I don't think they were kind of expecting to win big, but they were expecting to win, much because they needed the win to stay ahead in the playoff and in the division race. But this Browns team is just they're good. They're underrated. Baker Mayfield, like I said, just needed to pass more, and he did it. They passed more, they rushed a little bit less, but they were just on it. They were killing it. And for this Browns defense to stop Derrick Henry and only, to rush 60 yards in this game was pretty impressive, and it was pretty good. The Browns are just, I think they're just going to get even better. They could possibly, make a small playoff run, which would, be very interesting to see. So we'll see what happens with that. Next, we got Lions Bears. Lions 34, Bears 30. Stafford had 402 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Adrian Peterson with 16 rushing attempts, 57 yards, and 2 touchdowns. They had 60 rushing yards as a team. Marvin Jones with 8 catches, 116 yards, and 1 touchdown. Hockenson with 7 catches, 84 yards. Trubisky, 267 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and a lost fumble. Montgomery with 17 rushing attempts, 72 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Patterson with 10 attempts, 59 yards, and 1 touchdown. They had 140 rushing yards as a team. Allen Robinson with 6 catches, 75 yards. The Bears had this game. There was no way, no reason for them to lose it. This Lions team is struggling. They already got rid of the head coach Patricia, which was kind of, I think, was the reasons behind them losing also, and not having it together. This game they look better than they have all season, and to show up these Bears right at the right there at the end was a little bit oppressive. But I mean, Lions still got a lot to work on. They got to pick up the tempo. They're playing a little too slow for me, but we'll see what happens. Next, we got Rams Cardinals. Rams 38, Cardinals 28. Goff had 351 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and a rushing touchdown. Cam Akers, 21 rushing attempts, 72 yards, and 1 touchdown. Henderson with 1 touchdown. They had 119 rushing yards as a team. Woods had 10 catches, 85 yards. Kupp, 8 catches, 73 yards, and Tyler Higbee had the 1 touchdown. Kyler Murray, 173 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. He had 2 fumbles and lost 1 of them. Drake with 10 rushing attempts, 49 yards, and 1 touchdown. They had 92 rushing yards as a team. Hopkins with 8 catches, 52 yards, and 1 touchdown. Kyler Murray became the 4th player in NFL history with 40 or more passing touchdowns and 10 or more rushing touchdowns in their first 2 seasons. even with Kyler having the game he's had the last few weeks, he's still looking a little bit impressive. He's looking, he's looking okay, but he could be doing a lot better. I think from the injury a few weeks ago, he's a little scared. He's a little uptight a little bit. Just gotta loosen up. Gotta get out there. Gotta do what you gotta do. You were winning. You were in the MVP talks, and now you're just falling. I mean, I get you were injured. I get you might still be a little sore, but you gotta get out of that. A little. It's more of a little bit more of a mindset thing than a physical thing, and you just got to get your mind back into it. Get your mind back into it. You're gonna start looking like your old self from earlier this year, and you guys are gonna start winning. So, got to do something. Got to make those adjustments. Next, we got Giants Seahawks. Giants 17, Seahawks 12. One of the big upsets that I mentioned about earlier. Colt McCoy with 105 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Gallman with 16 rushing attempts, 135 yards. Alfred Morris with 8 rushing attempts, 39 rushing yards, and 1 touchdown. They rushed for 190 yards as a team. Evan Ingram and Golden Tate each with 4 receptions. They have 4 sacks as a team also. Wilson with 263 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He has 7 rushing attempts for 45 yards and a lost fumble. Carson with 13 rushing attempts, 65 yards. They had 111 rushing yards as a team. Carson also had 1 receiving touchdown. DK Metcalf with 5 catches, 80 yards. Tyler Lockett with 6 catches, 63 yards. Wilson's been sacked 40 or more times in 8 straight seasons, which is the longest streak in the Super Bowl era. The Seahawks just, that defense was starting to look like what they were ranked earlier. One of the worst defenses in the league. Allowing the most rushing yards a game. The Seahawks just wasn't ready for some reason. They didn't look like they were ready. They looked like they were half playing everything, which gave the Giants more momentum. Giants have won the last few games, and to win this one was pretty big for them because, now they're starting to lead in the NFC East, and they're trying to make that run like they did a few years ago, coming in as the big underdog into the playoffs. The way they've been playing compared to the other teams, they might have a little bit of a competition to win the NFC East and get into the playoffs. But be pretty interesting, and we'll see what happens. Next, we got Patriots Chargers. Patriots 45, Chargers 0. Newton with 69 passing yards and 1 touchdown. He also had 14 rushing attempts for 48 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jarrett Stidham had 61 passing yards and 1 touchdown. Damian Harris with 16 rushing attempts, 80 yards. They had 165 rushing yards as a team. Gunnar Olszewski with 1 reception, 38 yards, and 1 touchdown. Harry also had 1 touchdown. Justin Herbert with 209 passing yards, 2 interceptions. Eckler with 8 rushing attempts, 36 yards. He also brought in 4 catches for 32 yards. They had 70 rushing yards as a team. Keenan Allen with 5 catches, 48 yards. Cam has 1 or more passing touchdowns and 1 or more rushing touchdowns for the 42nd time in his career, which makes it most such games in the NFL. Cam is Cam. Cam's got a little bit of an arm. He just hasn't been using it. He hasn't been able to use it. With the type of weapons that he has, I kind of don't expect for him to just be airing it out. He's doing good work with the feet. With the rushing. Their defense is incredible. Their defense is further than expectations. That was, I guess, considered at the beginning of the season. They're winning more. They're trying to make a playoff run. They actually have a small chance of making the playoffs, which would be kind of interesting to see how they would, how they would go against teams that, clinch a playoff spot in the next couple of weeks. Next, we got Eagles-Packers. Eagles 16, Packers 30. Carson Wentz has 79 passing yards, and he was benched. So bringing in Jalen Hurts, Jalen had 109 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 5 rushing attempts, and 29 yards. Sanders had 10 rushing attempts for 31 yards. They had 117 rushing yards as a team. Goddard had 5 catches, 66 yards. Ward had 3 catches, 57 yards, and 1 touchdown. Jalen Reagor had the punt return touchdown for 73 yards. Aaron Rodgers, 295 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Jones had 15 rushing attempts for 130 yards and 1 touchdown. They had 149 rushing yards as a team. Devontae Adams with 10 catches, 121 yards, and 2 touchdowns. They had 5 sacks as a team. Rodgers now has 3 or more passing touchdowns in 9 games this season, which is most in the NFL. Also, he's the fastest player to reach 400 career passing touchdowns in NFL history with 193 games. The first player with 35 or more passing touchdowns in 5 seasons. Wentz was sacked 3 more times in 10 straight games, which makes it the longest active streak. They finally benched Wentz. They should have gotten Carson Wentz out a couple weeks ago. You drafted Jalen for a reason. He's a good backup. I actually think he would make a better starter. To start Jalen Hurts is a good sign, is a good thing. Carson Wentz, I think he just a few more years and he's gonna be gone. We won't see him anymore. But this Eagles team is struggling. The NFC East is kind of still up for grabs, and they keep struggling, and they have to do something. So see what they can do towards the end of the season. Next, we got Broncos Chiefs. Broncos 16, Chiefs 22. Drew Lock with 151 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Gordon with 15 rushing attempts, 131 yards. Phillip Lindsay with 14 attempts, 26 yards. They had 179 rushing yards as a team. Font had 4 catches, 57 yards. Patrick had 4 catches, 44 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Mahomes with 318 passing yards and 1 touchdown. Bell had 11 rushing attempts for 40 yards. They had 134 rushing yards as a team. Kelsey with 8 catches, 136 yards, and 1 touchdown. Tyreek Hill with 6 catches, 58 yards. Tyrann Mathieu had 2 interceptions in this game. Broncos now have 28 giveaways this season, which is most in the NFL. Mahomes has 31 passing touchdowns and 2 interceptions this season, makes it the best touchdown-interception ratio in a season in NFL history. Chiefs are on it. Mahomes is on it. Mahomes is starting to look like the unanimous choice for MVP. He's just having that type of year. They have that type of team. Repeating won't be surprising, but they got a little bit of a schedule in front of them, and then they got the playoffs. The playoffs should be a breeze for them, and I don't really see anybody else to stop them or to beat them before getting to the Super Bowl. Next, we got Washington Steelers. Washington 23, Steelers 17. This was the first Monday night game. This is the other upset game that I was talking about. Washington football team beating the Steelers. Steelers came in undefeated. That was a big surprise, a big upset. Alex Smith had 296 passing yards and 1 touchdown. Barber had 14 rushing attempts for 23 yards and 1 touchdown. They had 45 rushing yards as a team. Logan Thomas, 9 catches, 98 yards, and 1 touchdown. McKissick, 10 catches, 70 yards. Roethlisberger, 305 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. McFarland with 4 rushing attempts, 15 yards. They had 21 rushing yards as a team. Washington with 2 catches, 80 yards, 1 touchdown. Johnson with 8 catches, 71 yards, and 1 touchdown. Ebron had 7 catches, 68 yards. Football team had the worst record by any team in NFL history to defeat a team that entered the game 11-0 with an 11-0 record or better. T.J. Watt is the first Steelers player with 12 or more sacks in 3 straight seasons. For the Steelers defense to be what they've been all season, despite the 1 injury on the right side, that right defensive end, they shouldn't have fallen to this team. Washington is not that good of a team. Their defense is doing good. Their defense is starting to look impressive. Alex Smith is starting to look impressive. Just with saying all that, you would say, Maybe Washington was ready for the Steelers, but Steelers, like I've said before, I've called them before. They're like the early 2000s Ravens. Big defense, strong defense, one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the league, but their offense is average. Um, in today's age, you're not going to win the Super Bowl like that. You're not going to beat the Chiefs like that, especially if you get into a shootout with Mahomes. Roethlisberger is not equipped now to get into a shootout with Patrick Mahomes. The other Monday night game, Bills 49ers. Bills 34, 49ers 24. Josh Allen with 375 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. He also had 6 rushing attempts for 11 yards and a lost fumble. Singletary with 18 rushing attempts, 61 yards. They had 81 rushing yards as a team. Beasley with 9 catches, 130 yards, and 1 touchdown. Stephon Diggs with 10 catches, 92 yards. Mullins with 316 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Jeffrey Wilson with 7 rushing attempts for 47 yards. Mostert had 9 rushing attempts for 42 yards. They had 86 rushing yards as a team. Ayuk had 5 catches, 95 yards, 1 touchdown. Deebo Samuel, 6 catches, 73 yards. The Bills are 6-0 in games when Allen has 300 or more passing yards this season. The Bills are starting to look better and better. They're picking up the better of the momentum. Last year, they started losing that momentum. They were starting to fall. Losing too many games right there at the end of the season. The Bills now, they look good. The defense is above average, and Josh Allen is just looking great. He's very impressive. He's airing it out. He works the feet. He's a really good quarterback, and he's in the position to take this Bills team deep into the playoffs with possibly getting to the Super Bowl. Not this year, but eventually. Then we have the Tuesday night game, Cowboys-Ravens. Cowboys 17, Ravens 34. Andy Dalton with 285 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Elliott with 18 rushing attempts, 77 yards. They had 111 rushing yards as a team. Gallup with 7 catches, 86 yards, 1 touchdown. CeeDee Lamb with 6 catches, 46 yards, and Cooper with 5 catches, 43 yards, and 1 touchdown. Lamar Jackson, 107 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He had 13 rushing attempts on 94 yards, 1 touchdown. Edwards with 7 catches, 101 yards. Dobbins, 7 rushing attempts, 101 yards. Dobbins had 11 attempts for 71 yards and 1 touchdown. They had 294 rushing yards as a team. Hollywood Brown with 5 catches, 39 yards, and 1 touchdown. Boykin had 1 touchdown. Jackson is the first player in NFL history with Lamar Jackson is the first player in NFL history with 5,000 or more passing yards and 2,500 or more rushing yards in their first 3 seasons. The return of Lamar Jackson and the other 2 running backs was what they needed. Their defense is still looking good. Their defense looked good from last week. The offense just needed to pick it up a little bit more. Lamar came in, with 1 practice, 1 walkthrough, and looked good. The Cowboys just weren't ready. The defense was just horrible. They were half-stepping it, and there was no get up after a while. They stayed in the game at first, and then it's just like when the Ravens took over, they took over. There was no coming back for the Cowboys. There was no type of motivation or anything to be like, hey, we're not going to lose like this. We can't lose like this. We're still fighting for a division title. And it just didn't happen. Ravens, did what they had to do. They took care of business and got the win. This coming up week is going to be very interesting. We got even better games coming up. Like I said, the playoff picture is starting to form. After this week, it might start forming a little bit more. We might even get a couple of more playoff clinches, but we'll see what happens. So that's all the BS I have for this episode. Until next time.